You may have seen her as a frequent guest on the Roddy Radio podcast, or you may have seen her on her own YouTube channel, where she talks about music and movies and fashion and all kind of cool stuff. Joining us right now is none other than Madi Danger. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
So I wanted to ask you right off the bat, even though it's 2024, do you still get ignorant questions and ignorant assumptions about being goth?
Yeah, I think that just never ends. There's always more people to ask stupid questions. So,
What kind do you get?
I mean, one I got pretty recently, it was more directed towards like liking metal, but it kind of happens towards like all facets of my life, whether it's like cars or like any of the music I listen to or my work or anything. They're like, "Oh, who paid you to pretend like you like metal music?" And I was like, okay.
Why would
I wish
anybody
I got
do that?
paid, but
Yeah, why would anybody do that? That's
like,
insane.
I don't know.
So you still, even though like being goth is like pretty, it's not new. This is not recent at all. Loving heavy metal is not new at all.
Yeah.
You still have people like come up to you in the street, or is it more on your YouTube channel? And because you're on TikTok, so you
Most
probably
of
get a
it's
lot on TikTok.
online, through like pretty much any platform. Some are worse than others, depending on what it is. But like once in a while it happens in person. But I think most people are a lot more afraid to like actually talk to me in person, especially if they're going to be confrontational. So I think I get it a lot more online because people feel a lot more bold.
Yeah, in person they probably think you're gonna like put a spell on them, or like, do people think you're like satanic all the time?
I don't get that as much as I used to. But I
That's
do get people that are like, "Oh, I can't vibe with that satanic stuff," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
Dude.
or my husband's grandma, a while back used to like comment on some of my Facebook posts and be like, "I hope you get through this dark time in your life," and it'd be just like me holding a picture of a cat or something. Or holding a
Really?
cat, not a picture of a cat.
This dark time.
And or she would be like, "Oh yeah, she might be like dancing in the moonlight naked, casting spells or something."
What?
Like, I don't know. She just thought I was into like dark things, and I'm like, I'm into dark things, but not like that."
Yeah. I mean, I grew up. I would say that I'm not goth enough for the goths, but also too goth for the normal, I would say. And I have family members that have always been like that. Like anything, if I'm wearing just this shirt, they're like, "Oh my god, that's so satanic." And I'm
Sometimes even just wearing black or like
Yeah.
having long hair or painting your nails, people are like, that's too far.
Yeah. I had like a school counselor pull me aside one time because I was just wearing all black. No one was just like, are you gothic? And it was more like so it was like serious. Like, are you like in a gang? Like, are you doing something bad? It's like, are you like a gothic? I was like, I don't know, like kind of, like maybe, I guess, like you could say that. It was just like, she was worried for my safety, I guess, that I was possibly into this. How many different types of goth are there? Because I didn't know that they seem like there's a few.
Yeah, it's kind of like metal where, you've got like the death metal, the black metal, the 80s metal, glam, and all that. It's kind of like the same thing with goth. You've got like different subgenres of the music. You've got like ethereal and dark wave, post-punk, goth rock, and then not all of those usually correlate to like a specific kind of goth, but you'll definitely get like certain goths that gravitate towards those. So you'll get like death rockers, or there's like, I guess if you want to call like vampire goth, like wearing fangs, dressing Victorian Gothic, or like you're from the Lost Boys or something. There's like, I guess you could say like cure heads, and just people that are very into the Cure and look like Robert Smith half the time, kind of stuff. So there's some different kinds. Or I guess like trad goth is like one of the big ones right now. That's like one that I often am categorized as, where you just kind of lean into the 80s goth thing specifically. So
Okay. I remember, is mall goth one, or is that like a pejorative? That's like a pejorative, I
Yeah,
think, right?
that one, I don't know. It's kind of that one's kind of an odd one because mall goth originated as people that wanted to be in the alternative scene, but weren't quite because they mostly just went to the mall and bought clothes at Hot Topic, and they
Oh,
didn't
okay.
usually actually listen to goth music. They usually listened to things like new metal, like Korn and Slipknot. But
Oh,
people started calling them mall goths because they were making fun of them.
okay.
Now it's like a thing that people want to do that. So people are like, I'm a mall goth, and they dress like they're like a mall goth from the 90s or 2000s, and like that's what they want to do. They don't see it as like a bad thing
Yeah.
necessarily anymore. And I mean, people should do whatever they want, but like it started out as like
Like
kind of like hair metal. Hair metal started out as a term to make fun of metalheads because they're like, oh, huh, you and your hair metal. But
really? I figured it was a pejorative the way I heard it thrown around before. So I would have probably been considered
yeah,
a mall
so
goth as a kid. I did Hot Topic all the time. Were you big into Hot Topic when it was a thing?
I did a bit as a kid, but I was a broke bitch. I didn't have that kind of money, so sometimes I'd be at the mall to hang out with friends, but I would like look at a shirt and be like $20. I don't have that kind of money.
And that's cheap now. Every shirt
So
is like $30. Now, forget about it. Where,
yeah, so I was like I liked going to the mall, but I could never afford anything, so I was just there to be with people. But
where do you
I
get a lot
shopped
of
at
your
Ross
stuff
and
at?
TJ Maxx.
Oh, okay. Where do you get a lot of your stuff
Yeah,
now?
now I can do pretty much whatever I want, but I'm still very much into like secondhand. I'll get like a few things now and then that are like from nice brands and stuff, but even then, like a lot of those aren't usually like mall brands. It's usually like small business type brands, like Blackwood Castle. They make really cool like Victorian style and like Edwardian style dresses and things like that. Um, but a lot of my stuff I just like thrift, or it's just like band shirts that I get at concerts and stuff like that.
Have you been to New York City before?
I haven't.
You should totally go. You'll love thrifting there. You got
Oh,
a lot of cool stuff you can get.
I have a
Very
lot
nice.
of friends in like the 80s scene online that are in the New York and New Jersey area, and I am so jealous every time they like come home with all these thrift hauls. I'm like, we don't have anything like that here. That's so cool. Like I want to go. One of them just started working in like a I think it's like an 80s curated vintage consignment store, and I was like, oh, I always see all the cool things that she has on her posts, and yeah,
At
I'll have
least,
to make it up there one of these days.
at least these days you can get a lot more stuff online. There's just a lot more than eBay. You know, there's Etsy, and then there's a couple that I'm blanking on, a couple secondhand websites, but there's way more.
Yeah,
And I
like
feel like
Depop is really big.
that's the
I don't
one.
like
That's the
Depop.
one.
I got scorned from them, but uh what's the one that I use all the time? There's one that I really like. Now I can't think of the name either.
What happened? What
Um
happened when you in Depop? You got beef?
yeah, okay, it's like one thing, so it's not that big of a deal, but I take my finances seriously.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I tried to buy like a shirt or something on there, and the person like was responding and everything. It showed when they were last active, and I bought the thing, and they just never shipped it. And I tried
Oh,
to put in like a complaint, and they were kind of like, "You're SOL, buddy." So
what?
I was kind of like, "Screw this place. I never want to use it again."
You got
So,
to be kidding me. The company. I
oh,
mean, that's
Poshmark. That's the one that I like. I've never been scorned by Poshmark, so I've just stuck with them.
Depop like dubbed you like that. That's their job is to make sure you get your transaction is done well. And they were just like,
Yeah,
forget
so
about it. Who
I think
cares?
they were like, you waited too long or something, and I don't know how long I
Wow.
waited, but I kept trying to give them the benefit of the
Boo.
doubt, and then I don't know. I was just like, this place sucks.
Yeah, fuck them. Fuck them. Boycott Depop. I don't like that. That's not cool. That is so not cool, dude. So were your parents, were they like, cause mine kind of had that. Cause I grew up like, with a Catholic family. My dad didn't care more, but my mom took a little adjusting to when I got into like, when I got into the darker stuff. Were your parents like worried about you when you started exhibiting like gothic?
Um, Not really. I mean, maybe you could say my dad, but
Okay.
he lives in like another state, so uh, I just have never like I guess like shown him or anything. He almost had a cow when I dyed my hair black. He was like, "Oh no," because I'm naturally blonde, but my most of my family was pretty upset when I dyed my hair black, and I was
When
kind of
was
like,
that? Like, how old
it's
were
just
you?
hair dye. I don't even have like tattoos. Like, come on. But after like probably 30 minutes, he texted me back and was like, you know what? If I can have black hair, then so can you. Because he
Oh,
has naturally
nice.
black hair. So I was kind of like, what?
W dad.
But,
W dad. When that sounded like you were already
but
out of the house when you did that? That wasn't when you were like a young kid?
no, I wasn't like young. I was living with my grandma though. I was still in school.
Okay.
But it was mostly my grandmas that didn't like that. My mom is pretty open to that, but we don't really get along. So
The one thing that's really cool about you is that you drive a freaking hearse. How did that come about?
I've just like always kind of basically wanted a hearse. Like my dream car before I got the hearse was I wanted a blacked out cargo van, which is basically like a hearse. So
Right.
I had a Cadillac for my first car and I loved it, but it had so many issues. Like I would every paycheck I had to go, and that was like I got paid biweekly, but every paycheck I had to go get 5 quarts of oil and just dump the whole thing in the car because it was burning all of it. It wasn't even leaking. It was so bad. So I ended up having to sell that for like $1,000, and that car I loved. So I really wanted another Cadillac, but I was kind of at the point in my life where I was like, oh, I should get a reliable newer car. So I had convinced myself that I was going to go get a good new car that I could do on like road trips and things like that. So I got a Subaru Legacy, and I tried really hard to love it. I was like, it had a black and red color scheme, it had the heated seats, it had Bluetooth, and I was like, wow, this is great. But after a few years, I kind of figured out I didn't like it. It wasn't the car I wanted. It wasn't as reliable as I had hoped it would be. And I kind of just was like, you know what? If you're going to spend this much money on something, you should probably like it. So as soon as I paid off my Subaru, I sold it and I just rode my bike to work for like, I don't remember, it was like a few months that I was riding my bike to work, and I found a hearse online that was exactly what I wanted, and I had it shipped to me, and I was like, well, I'm a hearse girl now. This is what I'm going to drive, and that
Hell
was my
yeah.
daily for like 5 years.
So you've had it for 5 years now?
Yep.
And I'm sure you get a lot of looks and honks and stuff in the hearse, I'm
I
sure,
don't
right?
get a lot of honks, but I get a lot of looks. I get like the older people that are like they're glaring at me through their windows in traffic or something,
Yeah.
or I get the people that roll down their windows. They're like, "Hell yeah!" So
Are some people afraid to pass you because they think you're carrying like a funeral procession?
I've had a few of those, but I would say that I've noticed probably only less than 10. Like I've had a few people pull over into a parking lot, and then I look behind me and I'm like, why did they pull over? And then I see them once I'm like further down the road, pull back out of the parking lot and get back on the road. And I'm like, oh, it must have been me.
They're being
But I
respectful.
mostly got a lot of people that would like speed up and pass me or like try to race me or something. And I was like, why are you driving so aggressive around me? Like I'm in a hearse.
You're
Like
not in a sports car. Like, do you want to race you? That's
yeah, and
weird.
most of them they're not cars that look like they would be trying to race me. So I think they're just trying to get away from me. I don't know if it's like a superstitious thing, like the people that think like you have to plug all of your like your ears and your mouth and your eyes, but when you drive past a cemetery or spirits will inhabit your body. I don't know if it's like one of those things, but
Oh
I'll
my
I'll have like a
god.
minivan next to me in traffic, and they'll look over and then they'll just like they'll
Dart
floor it, and
away.
I'm like, what's your deal? Like
Some Christian mom. Oh my god. So you love going to the
yeah,
cemetery,
so
right? I've seen you
oh
and Roddy
yeah.
did an episode there, and you frequent there a lot. Have you had any spooky experiences in the cemetery?
Not like a lot. Mostly it's just like very relaxed. Like I'll go with friends or just by myself, like on a walk and listen to music or an audiobook. But um I don't know. There's been like a few things, but it's very minor, and I don't think any of them is like I don't know. very interesting. There's like
Yeah.
maybe one that's interesting.
Okay.
And so like me and a group of friends, like maybe there were like 5 of us total, went to the cemetery at night, and they wanted to do like a whole Ouija board thing, and I was kind of like, okay, whatever. I don't believe in that stuff. I still don't really. I would like to, but I'm not quite there. And I mean, normally I wouldn't believe this kind of stuff, and all the people I was with, I don't think they would pull anything. Like I've known them all for a long time, and I think they were all taking it pretty seriously. But they were doing the Ouija board thing. We kept trying to like ask questions, and most of it was just kind of gibberish for a while. I think we got like a plot number at one point. And then at one point, some of the questions we were asking, we started getting actual coherent answers. And it like started asking about one of the friends in the group. And then all of a sudden it just like switched to like you die over and over again. And we're like, okay, we're done. We're leaving.
Oh.
But that's like the one like actually crazy thing I guess that's happened. I don't know. All the others have just been like, oh, okay. That's not too crazy. That's just interesting. But
I find the cemetery to be very relaxing too. I never got really. I mean, I guess I understand why people be freaked out. There's dead bodies in there, whatever. Fine, like you don't see them. Like who cares? But I used to live by a cemetery when I lived in the Bronx, and I would go in there all the time. And I would do exactly what you said. I hang out, listen to music. It never bugged me. It never spooked me out. I never thought I'd be followed home by a ghost, because I always thought, why would the ghost be there if they could be anywhere, right?
Yeah.
If they were able to go anywhere, you're a ghost now. Why would I sit in the cemetery and look at my body or be around my?
I'd haunt like my house, my favorite restaurant or something, a person,
Yeah.
one of my objects. Like I wouldn't. I don't know. I figure a cemetery would be kind of boring. Maybe you'd visit once in a while for like your birthday if people wanted to visit you. That's it.
Yeah, why am I going to sit on my headstone and wait around to scare people? It's a big world out there. I'm a ghost now. I can do whatever the fuck I want. You know, so I thought the same thing, that you could just like, you know, you can go in there and hang out. It's super quiet. It's super chill. And I mean, in the Bronx, you really have to worry about like homeless people in there. That's probably the living is you have to worry about when you're in there.
Yeah.
People would be doing all kind of rituals and stuff. And back in the day, we would sneak in there. It was fun. So as I said in the intro, you have your own YouTube channel. What made you want to do that?
Kind of the same thing that made me start on TikTok, because I didn't really have much of a social media presence until one of my friends told me that I should get on Instagram. And so I started posting just like pictures of things I got thrifting, or like pictures I was just taking, you know, just basic stuff in my life. And then I kind of started doing the same thing on TikTok. I thought TikTok was cringe, and then one of my friends convinced me to download it, and I would just like scroll through and I'd see people do versions of trends and stuff, but I was like, no one's done this one. That would be so cool. So I was like, I could just do that. So I did it, and I started posting about like my interests and things that I liked on there. Most of it was like related to music or like retro tech, like VHS, Laserdisc, Betamax. But then it got to the point where I kind of wanted to do longer videos to talk about some of those things, because you'd end up having like part 4, part 5, and I was like, okay, this is getting out of hand. So I was like, I'll just make YouTube videos for when I want to ramble about things for a longer time. So
right. So you said you have retro. What is retro tech?
I mean, I guess that's what I call it. I don't know if other people usually call it that, but like I just really like physical media.
Yeah.
And I don't care that much about like Blu-rays or DVDs. I care more about like vinyl records, 8-tracks, cassette tapes, or like for movies, I collect a lot of VHS tapes, Betamax tapes, laser discs. I have some CED video discs. Like I get into like some of the like weird obscure ones and stuff like that.
Right. So you show off your collection on YouTube and stuff. And you said you do a lot of fashion, and like you did like a hair tutorial and stuff. So how do you like doing the YouTube thing? Is it like is it something you do like consistently, or is it just like whenever you feel like it?
I would like to do it more consistently, but I get so busy. One of the things I tried to do this year was I was like, I'll post at least one YouTube video a month, and I didn't quite make that, but I got pretty close. I don't know. I have a lot that I want to do, but setting up for like filming them, since I use like an actual camera and the lapel mic, and I have to like make sure the lighting is decent because
Oh,
the lighting in my house
I
isn't
hate
great.
lighting. That's the worst part. Oh my god.
And I'm so awkward, so like I have to edit out so much because I'll sit there and I'll say the same thing like 15 times and I keep
Yeah.
saying it wrong, or I'll slur my words, or like
Yep.
I just stutter really bad. So
I feel
like,
you.
or there's a lot of, maybe I'll make a compilation of this one day because I think it's really funny, but it's kind of cursed because there's a lot of footage that I cut out of me just like staring at the camera for a long time, very dead faced because I'm just sitting there thinking, or I'm just hating the moment. But
Yeah. Don't even worry about it. I've had so many experiences where I was looking at the camera like a moron, or stuttering, or saying the same thing over and over again. Not on the podcast usually. This is not really like the medium for that, but when I used to do YouTube videos, I had every exact issue. I hated lighting. I hated it. We're working on a new project right now. The last thing I want to do is the one I'm dreading the most is lighting it. For some reason, I don't know. That's the one that I hated. So I feel you on
lighting
every
is always
aspect.
hard.
Yeah. The thing that helped me the most, I guess, was having everything set up like at all times, like having basically like a studio, so you don't have to ever set anything up again. You know what I mean? Like where everything's kind of set up, and like whatever degree you want your light on is already there. You already know what you want on. You already know how you want this done. Everything is already in its place. That's the one thing when I was doing YouTube consistently, I tried to have everything already set up so I could just turn everything on.
That's kind of how things work for me with everything. Is it has to be readily accessible, or it doesn't get done very well.
Yeah. And you say you do tech, right? You do IT and stuff?
Yeah, I work in IT.
You get to do that from home, or do you have to go out?
No, I have to go into the office.
Oh man. So are you able to go into the office all glammed up, or are they like, nah, you gotta chill out?
I am. My last job was a lot more strict. I didn't even see people. I was at a desk all day. I didn't talk to people other than on the phone. But I usually got around the rules by doing like a more corporate goth thing. It usually ended up being a little more Victorian gothic. I'd wear like big bustle skirts and like fancy frilly button up shirts and things like that to work.
Nice.
So that was pretty funny. But now I go in and I do field work and things like that a lot of days. So I'm like, I'm wearing pants now. But yeah, like I just came from work. So
Yeah. Sometimes you got to work around the rules. It's no big deal. I mean, the good thing about that, you just make everything black. You just black on black. You do everything black, and that's pretty much that's your starting point right there. And you're good.
It's all, it's not too bad. I just anytime I get a new job, I make sure I get the handbook and I go straight to like the dress code section. I'm like, okay, what does it say? Yeah. What am I able to get away with?
What rules can I bend?
And then if I ever get called in, they're like, we had some complaints about your outfit. I'm like, well, nothing was against the handbook, so I can assure you.
You're like a lawyer in there. You know all the rules already. You know. Exactly
I've been through that a few times, so I'm pretty prepared usually.
Really, you've been called into the office and they're like, you can't be dressing like that. That's wild.
I had at my last job they got mad at my leather jackets that I wore all the time. So
what? You know, a leather
that
jacket.
One was really well. My leather jackets are pretty cool. I usually have them like studded and painted and like chains and spikes and things like that.
They didn't like that? Wow, that seems like very like an odd thing to scrutinize. Is a leather jacket.
Yeah, I was just like, hey, it's cold in this office. I'm bringing a jacket. If you have a problem with that, I will cause problems. I'm like, I'm not the only one that thinks it's cold. It's in the 60s in here. We're sitting down all day. I have a heated blanket at my desk. This guy, his wife bought him a heated blanket for his desk. These guys all think it's cold. It's not just me. You can't
Yeah.
tell me I'm not wearing a jacket because it's cold in the office. And they quit talking to me about it after that.
Dude can have a blanket, but I can't have a jacket. Get real, bro. Get real. Yeah. So you're a big fan of physical media, and so am I. I've been seeing that. I don't know if you noticed, but I feel like it's becoming more trendy to get physical media nowadays, especially because with streaming, I was kind of put onto this maybe like 10 years ago. Somebody was talking about this, but it's become more prevalent now that they're editing a lot of movies, that they're editing stuff out, they're doing
Yeah.
this, and
Like
they're,
E.T., instead of holding guns, they're holding walkie-talkies, I guess. Or,
really?
the Lilo and Stitch thing, they changed it from a dryer to a cabinet, that
What?
kind of thing.
Oh yeah, see, I didn't even
Yeah.
know about those examples, but somebody made a YouTube video about this 10 years ago saying it was going to happen, and I was like, oh, and I just never forgot it because as time went on, I would see more and more examples of that. So that's, I think, one of the biggest reasons people are wanting to just get the DVDs because everything's getting messed around. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
like streaming versions are always different. It's like when you had cable and you watched the TV version and they'd like change middle fingers to like peace signs, or they'd like dub over things badly when
Oh
they would
yeah,
say
it's
like
not even the same
something
guy.
inappropriate, or there wouldn't be even like scenes in there that normally would be. And
Yeah.
and same with music. There's so much music I like that's not on streaming, not even on YouTube. So like, I don't know. I like being able to just hold it. You also get, you get to look at the album art well. You can read the lyric books, look at pictures, and I don't know. It's great.
Yeah, albums were always my favorite. In high school, I would get like an album a week. I'd always go to FYE or buy them online. That was like my favorite part of my week is listening to an album, looking through the book. And a lot of the artists I listened to put a lot of effort into those. They put like trading cards and stuff like that. So I feel like it's a lost art right now. But vinyl, I think, is making a big comeback and has been.
Oh yeah, it's like huge right now, which I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people are complaining about how expensive it is, but I'm really glad that it is making a comeback because a lot of albums from like the 90s and on that were never pressed on vinyl, now they're pressing them again. So I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and they do a lot of cool stuff with the actual vinyl disc itself. They do all different
Oh
colors.
yeah.
They'll do blood stain stuff that I've never, seen before.
Yeah, because like I have a lot of like original pressings, and those are almost never that interesting. Like sometimes they'll have a neat sleeve, but the vinyl was like rarely colored, or you didn't get picture discs often back then. But I'm a huge sucker for the colored vinyl. I have a couple of albums that I have like three of the same album because I couldn't decide between the color variants.
Yeah, I think those are super cool. I don't have any of them yet, but I see a lot of them and they're badass. So this may be a hard question. Well, two-part question. This may be a very, very hard question. So you could take some time to think if you want. Okay. But since you got so many movies and so many albums, let me get your top 3 movies. It's a hard question. I'm sorry.
Probably always changes depending on my mood. My usual answer for favorite movie though is the 1931 Dracula with Bela Lugosi. I love that one a lot.
Banger.
The other two, that's hard.
It's a terrible question. I know. I hate even answering it myself.
I don't know. The 1986 Trick or Treat.
Oh, I never seen
Not
that.
the, huh?
Not the one from '08, right?
Yeah, it's from 1986. It's about basically this kid who his favorite metal rock star dies in a fire, and he plays this like cursed record he gets from the local radio DJ, and it brings him back to life, and he just torments this kid's life basically, and starts
That's
killing
cool.
people, and the kid's like, "Oh shit!" and he has to go stop him, and it's really good. The Fast Way, the band, they did the soundtrack for it, and it's a lot of fun.
I'm gonna check that out. That sounds cool.
Oh yeah, it's so good. You'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
Uh, hmm. Okay, this one's really stupid, but it's been one of my favorites lately. It's another obscure one. It's a 90s Canadian movie called Blood and Donuts, about a vampire that went to sleep in the 60s, basically, wakes up, it's the 90s, and it starts out with him basically taking this cab to a coffee shop, and he becomes friends with the taxi driver and this lady at the donut shop, and they just end up going on like an adventure, basically. But
They sound like fun
it's
movies.
a lot of fun.
These are good. I'm gonna check these out. These are awesome. So what about albums? This would be, I mean, this is a terrible question for me because I listen to so many that I'm like, I don't even know if I can answer it.
Yeah, albums I think might be harder than movies. I might say my favorite Judas Priest album changes a lot depending on the mood. There's like 4 that I usually switch between for my favorites, but I think for right now I'll say Defenders of the Faith by Judas Priest. I've been really liking Vision Video's newest album, Modern Horror. That one is really good. It definitely resonates pretty hard right now, unfortunately. For a third one, I don't know. Third one might be Abigail by King Diamond right now, because I just saw King Diamond live over the weekend, so I think I'm still just kind of riding the high from that.
Nice. How'd you like that?
Oh, it was my second time seeing him, and I love King Diamond so much. The shows are always great. I don't know that he has a bad song, and they all sound like just like the albums live. They're so good. So I had an absolute blast.
Nice, nice. So how do you like doing podcasting with Roddy? Because you went on one time and now I feel like you're on every show. How do you like you're officially a podcaster now, I think.
I guess so. I don't know. I started on there because I had listened to one with there's a local thrash band called Oblivion, and those guys had been on it. And so I had heard one of the podcast episodes with them, and it was, I don't know, they're all so silly, but I saw Roddy at one of the Oblivion shows, and he was like, hey, and then he messaged me later and was like, would you want to be on? And I was like, sure, why not? And I guess, yeah, now I'm a somewhat regular installment, and I don't know, it's always silly.
He's a great guy.
They're pretty fun times.
He's a great guy. He does a great show. He's super funny. Yeah. Now you're officially a podcaster. So how does that feel?
You know, I had thought about doing my own. I just wasn't sure if I don't know. I'm real bad at spreading myself thin. So I was like, man, I don't know if I should ever start my own. I probably couldn't keep up with it. It would just be like another YouTube thing where it's like once a month maybe. But I don't know. It's pretty fun. I enjoy being on them.
So plug away at whatever you want, your YouTube, your TikTok, all that stuff. Where can people find you?
I don't know. I think Madi Danger, Madi, is pretty much my username everywhere. Sometimes there's an underscore between Maddie and Danger. Sometimes there isn't. I don't know. It's mostly that everywhere.
There you go. There you go. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. Peace and love. See you next time.